In 2015, at one of the most prestigious universities in the world, a student screamed in a professor's face and demanded he apologize for protecting her right to be uncomfortable, and she was cheered on. Most people wrote it off as a generational quirk, campus politics gone too far. But what if that sin was actually a symptom of something much bigger, a disease spreading through every major institution in the Western world? Yale University, October 2015. Halloween is coming up. The university sends out an email reminding students to be sensitive in their costume choices. Reasonable enough. But a professor named Erika Christakis writes a response to her students. She says the university should be a place to explore, experiment, and even make mistakes. Yes, be thoughtful about others, but we trust you to grow through the discomfort. Her husband was surrounded by a crowd of students who told him in plain terms that his job was to make them feel at home, not to challenge them. When he tried to explain that a professor's role is to help people learn, a student screamed at him. Both professors eventually resigned. This is not really a story about Halloween costumes. It is a story about what happens when institutions stop doing what they exist to do. There are three common explanations for what happened at Yale, and they all miss the point. The first is parenting. These kids grew up pampered. Their parents treated them like friends instead of children. They were never allowed to fail, so they arrived at university with no tolerance for difficulty. The second is the consumer mentality. Universities are expensive. Students see themselves as customers. Customers are always right. The third is ideology. Professors have been teaching students for years that society is structured against them, that discomfort is oppression. But here is what all three explanations miss. They describe the symptoms, they do not explain the disease. The real explanation is that Yale and institutions like it have become bureaucracies. When a university is doing its actual job, training minds, doing original research, producing people who can think, the measure of success is hard to fake. Either your students can think or they cannot. But when a university becomes a bureaucracy, the goal shifts. The goal is no longer to produce thinkers. The goal is to protect the administrators, to justify their salaries, to expand their departments. And here is the thing about bureaucracies. They do not produce anything valuable. They exist to justify their own existence. Every policy they create generates the need for more policies. Every problem they define requires more administrators to manage it. The machine grows, the actual mission disappears. Now here is where this stops being about university campuses and starts being about everything. Think about a hospital. The original purpose of a hospital is to heal sick people. Pretty clear mission. But over decades, hospitals have accumulated layers of administration. Compliance officers, HR departments, patient satisfaction coordinators, billing specialists. The result is that doctors, the people doing the actual healing, spend the terrifying portion of their time doing paperwork, filling in forms, justifying decisions to administrators who have never treated a patient. The healing still happens, but it is increasingly despite the institution, not because of it. Think about schools. The purpose of a school is to educate children. But over decades, schools have also filled up with administrators. Teachers spend less and less time actually teaching. In every case, the pattern is the same. An institution forms around a real purpose. Over time, people inside it figure out that the safest path is not to do the hard thing the institution exists for. The institution starts optimizing for its own survival rather than its original purpose, and eventually the bureaucracy becomes the point. That Yale student screaming at a professor was not crazy. She was responding rationally to the game she was in. She had been told, explicitly and implicitly, by the university's growing administrative apparatus that her comfort was the product the university was selling. She was acting as a customer, demanding what she paid for. The professor who stood in her way was, from her perspective, a faulty piece of equipment. This is not just a university story. This is the story of how powerful institutions slowly hollow themselves out. The sad part is that most people inside these institutions know something is wrong. The doctors know, the teachers know, the researchers know. They just feel powerless against the machine they are inside. The first step out of that trap is the same first step out of any trap. You have to be willing to name what is actually happening. Stop calling it bureaucracy as if it is a neutral inconvenience. Call it what it is. This by paperwork is still there.